So, good morning. It's weird, but before I turned my camera on, it was lighter. And then I turn it on and it's darker. But, so, there we go. So, anyway, I thought I'd finish talking about the first group of van dwellers I was talking about before. And one of the things I want to say, and that is, I think I left off on single mothers who, I think it's the wave of the future. Next, single mothers are going to be a huge part of the van dwelling community. But what I was talking about single mothers who are empty nesters, because I think as a single mother you can actually, if your kids are still at home and under 18, it's easier to get an apartment. It's easier to get into the system and get on housing. And so I'm not really talking about the single mothers who are who still have kids at home. I'm talking about the single mother who her kids are grown up, either gone off to college or gone or moved out on their own, and that's transition from being no longer getting the income from child support. And actually, even if you're a single mother and you are on housing with your kids, once the kids turn 18, I believe you no longer you no longer qualify for a house that size, because they expect your kids 18, they're going to move out, blah, blah, blah. And even if they don't move out, then your portion of the rent becomes more, because they figure your kids are old enough to work. They can contribute to the income. I think that's how it works. I don't know. I've never been on housing, but I do know every time a kid turns 18, either you have to downsize and move to a smaller place and stay on housing, or they take a certain amount away from the housing they're providing, and you have to make up that difference. So I think that's how it works, but I could be wrong. Anyway, so I'm talking about the single mother who's an empty nester, and all of a sudden she doesn't have the income of child support anymore, and this is how child support works. Child support stops only if child support stops either on the kid's birthday or when the kid graduates from high school, which is the kid graduates at 18 or whatever age. But like with me, my son he turned 18 in March. So although he hadn't graduated, it's done either by age or by when high school is finished. Because some kids, whose birthday is in August or September, well, so graduating from high school comes first, and then they stop child support. So my son turned 18 in March. Child support immediately stopped, and so that was a little rough. But anyway, but another thing too, though, and that'll affect whether or not most empty nester mothers face this, is that a lot of women either do not remain single, they get married again, or they have boyfriends who live with them, or boyfriends whom they move in with after the kids grow up. So, I don't think I know many women who remain single, raise their kids, and then are alone and have to make that transition alone. Like I said, I think most women are either dating someone serious long term, or remarry when they by the time the kid grows up, and you have to face that you're at that borderline. But so I think basically, okay, the first type of van dweller is the one who's caught unaware and who immediately has to leave apartment or house or whatever. And the single mother who remains single and her kids grow up and move out of the house, or she can no longer stay in the house that she's at because she can't afford it without housing. So that's the first group of van dwellers. And I'm not going to go on to the others right now, but I thought it was important. It's really important because this type of van dweller or RVer, or they might live in their car or whatever. This type of non-house or apartment dweller has a different mentality, because I notice around me where I tend to hang out. There is a lot of trash. I mean, there's tons of trash. There's tons of household stuff. There's tons of chairs and cabinets, and and so this, I think, is more attributed to the van dweller, or the non-traditional house dweller, because when they haven't switched their thinking into van dwelling. They're not really van dwelling or RV dwelling because they want to. They're basically holing up and keeping all their stuff, and moving with all their stuff, because in the back of their mind, or the way they're thinking is, when I get it together, when we come up with money, we're going to get another place. So let's hang on to all our stuff, and or they try to put some of it in storage, but if you can't afford rent and electricity, how are you going to afford storage, right? So anyway, yeah. So the first type of van dweller is, I think it's the kind of dweller that people who are non-van dwellers look down on, because they're the ones that's halfway, 2, 3, 4 months into it, they go, wow, one, I don't have the money yet to get another apartment, and two, I can't live in this chaos. I've got all my furniture, all my books, all my records, all my everything that I had when I was living in the house and apartment, or most of it anyway. And that's the van dweller or RVer that just unloads all that stuff on the streets, on the sides of streets. In the city where I live, I was just driving down here and looking, and there's just trash lined up. And it's so funny because the city comes in, cleans it up, and then it's right back there again. And so, yeah, I think the first type of van dweller is definitely hasn't faced reality yet, haven't accepted a van or RV has their new home. They're still hanging on to the old lifestyle and still hanging on to all that stuff, and all of a sudden they realize that they have nowhere to sleep or to hang out, and there's no more space on top or on a rack at the back, so they just deposit it on the streets. And that's, I think that's sad, because either way, I think the problem is that people think that we hang on to stuff because it makes us feel like we can't be doing too bad, we hang on to, I did that myself when I was with raising in an apartment, raising my son in an apartment. I realized that I was hanging on to a lot of stuff, and it just drove me nuts, After about 6 months, every 6 months I do like a cleaning out and just throw stuff away, because once I realized this, though, I think having all that stuff gave me a sense of security. It's almost like, when things were really bad, you look around and you've got all your stuff, right? So things can't be that bad, that was my thought. But I realized that it wasn't. I realized it wasn't about things being bad. It was more about I felt more secure if I had all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, if I needed money, that stuff I couldn't transpose into money. But it was just cluttering my life, and it was taking more time and effort to clean. And it's like, I think I'd have to like clean the apartment once a month, and all the stuff, I had like lots of plants and lots of this and that, and all the polishing the furniture and even cleaning the plants, right? Just became overwhelming, because that was time that I that's what I did when my son went to his dad's, and was I did a cleaning, complete cleaning of the house. And I realized too, though, that my son was becoming really attached to certain things, and I didn't feel like it was important. So, like, our thing was I'd save maybe $3 to go to the Dollar Tree, and he always went for a stuffed animal. So, I mean, he had a stuffed animal, and what are those cars called? Hot Wheels, So he had like a million Hot Wheels and a million stuffed animals. Finally, one day, I kept saying, we have to get rid of some. No, no, I want to keep them all, Mom. So finally, one day, he went to his dad's house and had packed it all up, cleaned his room, threw a lot of stuff out, and got rid of all the stuffed animals and blah, blah, blah. So, and this is really bad, but so he comes home and he says, Mom, what happened to my stuffed animals? So I said, oh, I put it in storage. And I didn't, and I lied to him, and I felt really bad about it. But I knew that, and when I said I put it in storage, he was like, oh, okay. That was that, right? Years later, he says, Mom, so is my stuff still in storage? And I said, oh, dude, I'm so sorry, but I got a call, and they told me that the storage unit flooded, so they had to get rid of everything. So they had to throw it away. It's like, oh, well, that's too bad. And he moved on, right? But yeah, so I didn't want to lie to him, but and this is why I lied to him, because I remember my ex-husband's sister had a story about how he threw her blanket away. And I mean, the lady's like older than I am, but I think at the time I was 20 something. She was probably in her 30s. And she still remembered that blanket and still accused the ex-husband about throwing, was on him about throwing away the blanket. So it made me realize that sometimes we hold on to things for certain reasons. And so I didn't want to approach it. Had I told my son, that I threw it away right then and there, you know, I don't think he would have made that transition to get over it. It'd still be in his mind. But after I told him what happened to he just started laughing, So, but yeah, so I'm not saying that people who still want to transition back into a house or apartment should not get storage units and put their stuff there, or I'm just saying that pretty much everything you have you can buy again. I mean, I know I hate getting rid of stuff because I don't like to have to rebuy anything, repurchase stuff. So I understand how they feel. However, I think there comes a time when you have to face reality and say, my life has changed now. Maybe later, maybe some years down the line, I can buy that stuff back. But for now, I need to get it. It doesn't fit in the RV, or it doesn't fit in the van, or it doesn't fit in the car. I need to get rid of it. I need to, simplify my life. And that's the thing too, though, is that even when they're in the house or apartment, they probably should have simplified their life. So, so yeah, this is my take on the first type of RVer, the first, or van dweller. The first type of RVer and van dweller are those who really still are keeping hope alive, hoping to somehow transition back to an apartment or house. So they are the ones who pack everything instead of only what they need and only what the space fits. So stay tuned, and I'll have another edition of van lifers and the types. I think the second type I'll talk about is the van dweller who has decided to. Well, the next couple of steps would be the van dweller who is who works and lives in this van, the van dweller who travels and lives in their van. I think there's a big difference in that too. So until next time.